Have you ever felt like the people you gave everything to just turned around and walked away as if it all meant nothing? You raise your children. You give them your time, your love, your energy, even your sacrifices quietly made without complaint. And then one day, they stop calling. They start pulling away. Maybe it's not sudden. Maybe it's a slow fade. Less phone calls, fewer visits, more silence. And it hurts. Deeply. But what if I told you the strongest thing you can do in that moment is nothing? Not lashing out. Not begging. Not even explaining. Just silence. Because silence isn't weakness. It's full of answers. It's full of power. Today we're going to talk about what happens when you stop chasing people who take you for granted, especially when those people are the ones you raised. And what can happen when you choose strength over sorrow, power over pain, and silence over drama. You're not alone in this, and you're not powerless. You just haven't been shown how to take your power back until now. Let's begin where it all starts, with your emotions. When someone we love hurts us, especially our own children, our natural instinct is to react. We feel betrayed, abandoned, or unappreciated. We want to say something, do something. We want them to see how much they've hurt us, to realize they're wrong. And sometimes we think that if we just explain enough or try hard enough, they'll come back around. But chasing people never makes them respect you. It only proves that they can walk away and you'll still follow. That's why mastering your emotions is so important. You don't have to react to every slight, every cold shoulder, every ignored message. You don't have to explain your worth or beg for their time. You just have to be still. Because when you stop reacting, you stop giving them power. And suddenly, they're left to sit alone with the weight of what they've done. And that weight? It's heavier than anything you could ever say. Imagine this. Your child expects you to get upset. They think you'll call and ask why they haven't visited. They expect guilt, maybe tears, maybe frustration. Because as long as you react, they still feel important. They still feel in control. But the second you don't, something shifts. They start to wonder. They start to question. They start to feel the loss. Because silence is not absence. It's presence without noise. It's your strength taking up space without explanation. It's you saying, I still love you, but I no longer need to beg you to love me back. And that is where the power begins. When you master emotional control, you stop being predictable. You stop being easy to push. And most importantly, you stop being manipulated by guilt. You've probably spent decades putting others first. Saying yes when you wanted to say no, showing up for everyone even when no one showed up for you. But now, it's time to show up for yourself. Because the truth is, people start treating you better when they realize they've lost access to your emotions. They say curiosity killed the cat, but it also kills arrogance. And this is where reverse psychology comes in. The more you pull back, the more they lean in. The more silent you become, the louder your absence gets. You don't have to post messages or send texts asking if they miss you. Your lack of chasing will do the talking. They start to wonder, why aren't they reaching out anymore? Did I go too far? Are they done with me? And when those questions take root, something else happens. Regret. Because they thought you'd chase. They thought they had you figured out. They thought they could treat you any way they pleased and you'd still be there. But you didn't chase. You didn't explain. You didn't justify your worth. You simply moved on with grace. And now, the silence they gave you, it's being reflected right back to them. Only this time they don't know what to do with it. That's the brilliance of reverse psychology. It's not manipulation. It's the mirror they never expected to face. And in that mirror, they start seeing what they lost. It could be weeks, maybe even months. but eventually they begin to feel it. Not just your absence, but the absence of your support, your encouragement, your warmth, your presence. They go to call you, but stop. They check your profile, but say nothing. They wait for you to reach out, but all they get is silence. And in that silence, they feel small. Because it's not about making them feel bad. It's about finally putting yourself first. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in peace. Let's be honest. You've probably spent your whole life pouring into others. Maybe it was your spouse, maybe your children, maybe your job. But somewhere along the way, you forgot to pour into yourself. And when the people you gave everything to start treating you like an option instead of a priority, it's not your job to chase them. It's your job to remember who you are. You are not weak for feeling hurt. You are not wrong for expecting respect. But you are strong when you stop chasing what refuses to honor your value. It may not feel natural at first. Silence can be uncomfortable, especially when you've been the one to hold the family together all these years. But you know what's more uncomfortable? Sitting in sorrow, waiting for people to wake up and realize what they've done. Let them sit in the silence for once. Let them wonder. Let them feel the consequences of their choices. Because you're no longer begging. You're no longer chasing. You're no longer explaining. You're simply reclaiming your peace. And here's the beautiful part. Once you do this, once you master the art of emotional control and understand the quiet power of absence, you'll start to feel lighter. Not because the pain disappears, but because you stop carrying it for everyone else. And that's when something else happens. You start to grow again. Not for anyone else. Not to prove anything. But for you. Because the moment you stop looking back is the moment you start rising. Pain changes people. But how it changes you, that's your choice. When someone you love deeply, maybe your own son or daughter, pulls away, the pain isn't just emotional. It's physical. It hits your chest, your stomach, your heart. It's like a weight that never quite leaves. Some nights you lie in bed wondering what you did wrong, what you could have done better. And in that quiet, the pain whispers all kinds of lies. You weren't good enough. You failed them. You're not needed anymore. But those are just echoes of grief. And grief can either bury you or build you. The ones who grow, who truly rise from heartbreak, don't run from the pain. They don't numb it with distractions. They don't fill the silence with noise. They sit with it. They breathe through it. And then they turn that pain into fuel. This is the rebirth. The moment you decide, I can't change the past, but I can change where I'm going. You get up in the morning and move your body, not to impress anyone, but to honor the one body you've been given. You eat to nourish yourself. You walk to clear your head. You read to strengthen your mind. You do it for you. Because every minute spent drowning in what could have been is a minute stolen from what still can be. Let them think you're fading. Let them believe you've crumbled. Then let them watch, quietly, as you build something they never expected. A version of you who is calm, focused, and stronger than ever. You don't do it to prove them wrong. That still gives them too much power. No, you do it to prove to yourself that you were never broken. You were just becoming. There is a quiet strength in choosing yourself. In waking up one day and saying, I don't need anyone else to validate who I am anymore. That's where detachment comes in. Now let's be clear, detachment isn't coldness. It's not pretending you never cared. Detachment is freedom. It's the power to walk away without dragging your heart behind you. It's looking at your adult children, not with bitterness or desperation, but with acceptance. They are on their journey, and I'm on mine. Because once you stop tying your self-worth to how often they call, or how much they visit, or whether they say thank you, you begin to take your life back. It doesn't mean you stop loving them. It means you stop letting their actions dictate your peace. There's nothing more attractive, more magnetic than a person who no longer needs anything. You don't need to be validated. You don't need to be noticed. You don't even need to be remembered. Because when your energy shifts from "please see me" to "I see myself," everything around you begins to change. You smile differently. You move with confidence. You make decisions not out of fear or guilt, but out of clarity. You are no longer the parent waiting by the phone, checking messages, wondering if you still matter. You know you do. And that calm energy? That's what people feel. Even the ones who left. That's where the cold shoulder effect quietly steps in. At some point, maybe weeks, maybe months later, your absence will be noticed. Maybe they see you at a family gathering. Maybe they finally call. Maybe you bump into them in public. And in that moment, all eyes are on your reaction. Most people expect one of two things: anger or warmth. Either you lash out or you melt with relief. But when you stay calm, when you meet them with nothing but quiet dignity, polite distance, and not a trace of neediness, it unsettles them. Not because you're being rude, but because you're showing them something rare. They no longer hold power over you. You don't avoid them. But you don't chase. You don't speak coldly. But you don't pour yourself out. You acknowledge and move on. And that moment will stick with them far longer than any outburst or apology ever could. Because what people fear most is not being hated. It's being irrelevant. And when you stop reacting, when your presence is no longer tied to their approval, they feel the difference. Suddenly, you're the one they can't read anymore. You're the one who changed. You're the one they wonder about. And that's the shift. You're no longer the parent trying to hold on. You're the one who let go. And believe it or not, that's when they often come back. But here's the part most people miss. When they return, it's not always because they've had a revelation. Sometimes they're just curious. Sometimes they want to know if you're still available. Sometimes they just want to see if they can still pull your strings. But you've changed. You're not waiting anymore. So when that message comes, maybe it's a text or a casual check-in or a, "Hey, just thinking about you," you don't react the way they expect. You pause. You stay centered. You don't rush to respond. And if you do respond, it's measured, brief, calm, no emotional over-explaining, no digging into the past. You show, by how you carry yourself, that you are no longer seeking closure, because you've already found it, within yourself. The beauty of this transformation isn't that they regret walking away. It's that you no longer care whether they do or not. You are free. You are grounded. You are your own source of peace now, and they can feel that, even through the silence. There's a strange kind of power in not reacting. It's not loud, not flashy, but it speaks volumes. That's the power of indifference. Not coldness, not cruelty, just peace. A kind of peace that doesn't rise or fall based on who shows up or who leaves. It's knowing that you've done your part. You've loved, you've given, you've tried. And now, you simply let go. You don't hate them. You don't wish them harm. But you no longer hold space for people who couldn't honor yours. And that's what makes you unshakable. When your adult children expected you to chase after them, to prove your worth, to beg for attention, they were banking on one thing, that you needed them more than they needed you. But now, they're the ones wondering, Because when you truly let go, something shifts in the air. It's not just that you're gone, it's that you're no longer waiting. That you've stopped orbiting around them. That you're not checking your phone, not peeking at their social media, not holding your breath for a holiday visit or a birthday call. You are fully, beautifully gone. And in that absence, they feel something they didn't expect: doubt. They start to ask themselves questions they never considered before. Did I matter as much as I thought I did? Did they move on from me? Are they happier without me? That's the sting of indifference. Not because you're trying to hurt them, but because the silence you once sat in, now they're sitting in it, and it echoes. And maybe, just maybe, they start to realize what they gave up. But here's the secret most people don't understand. The point of this journey isn't to make them regret. It's to become so grounded, so fulfilled, so steady, that whether they regret it or not doesn't matter anymore. Because the truth is, this was never about them. It's about you. This is where everything changes. For so long, you made them the center of your world. Every decision, every sacrifice, every prayer was for them. You shaped your schedule around their needs. You adjusted your emotions to accommodate theirs. You dimmed your own needs just to make sure they had everything they wanted. And in doing so, you forgot something important. Your life was never meant to revolve around someone else's approval. It's time to reclaim that life. Not by shutting down, not by closing your heart, but by opening your eyes to something you might have forgotten. You still matter. You still have purpose. You still have time. You still have dreams, goals, and chapters yet to be written. You do not have to fade just because someone else chose to walk away. Because the world is still yours, not theirs. Yours. You get to choose how your days feel now. You get to choose what you give your attention to. You get to decide what kind of legacy you want to leave. Not one of quiet suffering and unspoken pain, but of strength, dignity, and peace. You can fill your days with things that nourish you, walks in the sunshine, books that spark your mind, conversations that lift you up. You can learn new skills, explore new places, or simply sit in your favorite chair, coffee in hand, knowing you are at peace with yourself. Because peace is power. And that brings us to the most important part of this entire journey. The last smile belongs to the calm one. You see, the ones who hurt you, they expect a reaction. They expect you to fall apart. They expect you to be stuck in the past. And when you're not, when you're steady, healthy, and completely unmoved, that's when they realize just how strong you've become. It's not about winning some silent competition. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Because you didn't just survive being hurt. You grew from it. You didn't just get through the silence. You found your voice inside it. You didn't just walk away. You rose. And that quiet, unbothered strength, that's what they'll remember. Long after the messages stop. Long after the awkward conversations fade. Long after the dust settles. What remains is the version of you that stood tall without needing applause. The version of you who didn't chase, who didn't beg, who didn't lower your standards to be seen. Instead, you built a life so full, so centered, so deeply rooted in purpose, that their absence became irrelevant. And here's what's truly beautiful. When you get to this point, the regrets of others no longer define you. Whether they come back or not, you're okay. Whether they say sorry or not, you're okay. Whether they understand what they lost or not, you're still okay. Because the goal was never to be needed. It was to be whole. And you are. So if you're watching this, and feeling the ache of distance, of silence, of being pushed away by those you once held closest, know this: you are not alone. You are not forgotten, and you are certainly not finished. This chapter, it's not your ending. It's your turning point. So take a breath. Sit tall. Hold your head high. You've already done the hardest part. You stopped chasing. Now, keep walking forward. Your best years are not behind you. They're standing right in front of you, waiting. And they belong to you. You've come a long way. From the pain of silence to the power of stillness. From heartbreak to rebirth. From chasing to choosing yourself. This isn't just about family or relationships. It's about identity. It's about what happens when you stop letting other people define who you are. And finally remember who you were all along. The truth is, when you stop living for their approval, you begin living for your own peace. And peace isn't loud. It doesn't shout or explain. It simply is. People may never understand the silent battles you've fought. They may never know how hard it was to stay quiet when all you wanted was to be heard. But you know the strength it took to hold your ground when every instinct begged you to reach out. You know the tears you cried behind closed doors, the nights you questioned everything. You know what it cost to let go. But you did. And that means more than they'll ever realize. Because what you've built in their absence, that's something no one can take away. You've built clarity. You've built emotional freedom. You've built a life that doesn't beg for love but radiates it from within. And in doing so, you've become the person they never expected. You're no longer the one sitting by the phone, hoping they'll remember to call. You're the one living fully, even in their silence. You're not waiting for a holiday to feel seen. You're not counting the days between their texts. You're not measuring your worth by their attention. You've outgrown all of that. And maybe, just maybe, they've started to notice. Maybe they've seen the shift in your eyes, the calm in your voice, the lightness in your walk. Because when someone goes from needing you to knowing they no longer have you, that's when regret shows up. But you're not interested in their regret anymore. You've tasted something far better. You've tasted your own power. And that's the real victory. It's not getting them to come back. It's not hearing "I'm sorry." It's not even them seeing what they lost. It's you seeing what you've gained. Your mornings are quieter, but they're more peaceful. Your days may have fewer people, but they're full of purpose. Your heart has scars, yes, but it's stronger, wiser, and more open than ever. And now you're free, not just from them, but from the need for them. You've learned to love from a distance, to forgive without letting people back in, to care without clinging, because your energy is sacred now. Your time is precious. Your future is wide open. So here's what I want you to remember more than anything. You didn't lose them. They lost the version of you who was willing to give them everything. You're not bitter. You're not angry. You're just done waiting. You've stopped being the one who always reached out. You've stopped begging to be chosen. You've stopped shrinking to fit the spaces they gave you. Now, you walk in your fullness. Now, you speak only when it adds to your peace. Now you build, not for their approval, but for your own legacy. Because you're not done yet. Not even close. You've got more to see, more to do, more to become. The calm, quiet, steady version of you, that's not weakness. That's wisdom. It's the wisdom of someone who has lived, who has lost, who has learned, and who has decided once and for all never to go back to the days of chasing people who didn't want to be caught. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are becoming. And let me say this, as if I were sitting across the table from you, eye to eye. You are more powerful now than you have ever been. Not because of who you've lost, but because of who you've chosen to become. So stand tall, even if the house feels quiet, even if the phone stays silent, even if the holidays come and go without the messages you hoped for. You're still here. You're still growing. And your story isn't over. It's just beginning again. You've already won, not by getting them back, but by getting yourself back. And that's what makes them regret losing you. If this message resonated with you, don't let it end here. I want to hear your voice, your experience, your breakthrough, your strength. Drop a comment below. Let others know they're not alone. Your story could be the encouragement someone else needs right now. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life. Because this is the kind of place where we grow together, support each other, and rise without apology. You don't have to go back. You don't have to explain. You don't have to chase anyone anymore. Because the peace you've found, it's yours. And no one can take it away. Here's to living with clarity, courage, and calm. Here's to never chasing again. Here's to your strength, your story, and your next beautiful chapter. Stay strong, stay wise, and remember this: the last laugh always belongs to the calm one.